Ladies and gentlemen, how often do we find ourselves trapped in the comfort of our own minds? How often do we surrender to the inertia of our thoughts, letting them swirl around us without taking action? I want to talk about these lazy thoughts today, the kind that keep us stuck in our own comfort zones, preventing us from growing, from moving forward, and from realizing our true potential. We all have dreams, we all have ambitions, but sometimes these thoughts start off as whispers of possibility and then they become lazy. They take a backseat to our fears, to our doubts, and to the overwhelming noise of the world around us. These lazy thoughts start telling us it's too hard or maybe you're not good enough. They make us procrastinate, delay, and ultimately give up before we even begin. And sometimes, a miracle, we do expect and achieve problems, but only when we make it emotional, ephemeral. They rob us of our power, of our strength, and of our ability to rise above the noise and take charge of our life. But let me tell you something. You are not your lazy thoughts. You are not defined by the doubts that run through your mind. These thoughts do not own you unless you let them. We often forget that the most powerful force in the universe is the power to choose. We can choose to silence the lazy thoughts and replace them with the courage to act. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a victory. Every moment you choose to push past the lazy thoughts is a moment where you reclaim control over your own journey. Remember that growth doesn't always happen in leaps and bounds. Sometimes it's in the quiet, patient moments of persistence. It's in showing up when your mind tells you to stay still. It's in choosing to move forward even when it feels easier to stay comfortable. The path to greatness is not a straight line. It's full of twists, turns, and bumps. But each obstacle is a lesson. Each setback is a chance to rise again. And each moment of doubt is an opportunity to prove to yourself that you are stronger than your lazy thoughts. I want to remind you today that you are capable of breaking free from the comfort of inaction. You are capable of silencing the doubts, the fears, and yes, the lazy thoughts that try to hold you back. Your future is shaped by the choices you make today. And I believe in you, the person who chooses to act, even when it feels easier to retreat. Let's not let our dreams collect dust in the corners of our minds. Let's not let lazy thoughts keep us from the incredible, unstoppable force we are meant to be. The world is waiting for you to step into your power. And I promise you, once you start taking action, you'll wonder why you ever listened to those lazy thoughts in the first place. Lazy thoughts are a silent force that quietly shape the trajectory of our lives. They slip in unnoticed, often when we least expect them, convincing us that we don't need to act, that there's always tomorrow to begin, or that our current state is enough. These thoughts might appear innocent at first, almost comforting, but they have the potential to be far more dangerous than we realize. They hold us back from taking action, from chasing our dreams, from realizing our true potential. They create a mental fog that clouds our judgment and stifles our creativity. The longer we allow lazy thoughts to persist, the more difficult it becomes to break free from their grip. Every day we are presented with opportunities to take steps toward our goals, to move forward in life, to push ourselves beyond our comfort zones. But instead of embracing these moments, we find ourselves paralyzed by the very thoughts that should empower us. These are the lazy thoughts that tell us we're not ready, we're not good enough, or that the task at hand is too overwhelming. The truth is, these thoughts don't reflect reality. They're simply a product of our own fears, insecurities, and tendency to resist change. We live in a world that demands constant motion, constant action, and constant results. In such an environment, it's easy to fall into the trap of complacency. Lazy thoughts are the perfect excuse to avoid the hard work, the discomfort, and the vulnerability that come with pursuing something meaningful. They whisper in our ears that we can rest now, that we don't need to push ourselves, and that everything will somehow fall into place without any reality. But this is a lie. Success, growth, growth and fulfillment all require action. They require us to challenge ourselves, to confront our fears, and to take risks, even when everything inside us screams to stay where it's safe. There's an old saying that goes, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions." At first glance, this might seem harsh, but it highlights a powerful truth. Good intentions are nothing without action. We can spend our lives thinking about what we want to achieve, making plans and imagining the future we want, but if we don't take steps toward those goals, we remain stuck in the same place. Lazy thoughts have a way of convincing us that thinking is enough, that simply planning and dreaming will somehow manifest the life we desire. But without action, those dreams will always remain just that, dreams. The first step toward breaking free from lazy thoughts is recognizing them for what they are, distractions. These thoughts are not a reflection of our true capabilities. They are a result of the mind's natural resistance to change. Change is hard. It requires us to step out of our comfort zones, to face uncertainty, and to put in the effort even when the outcome is unclear. But it's in those moments of discomfort that growth occurs. Every time we resist the pull of lazy thoughts and push ourselves to act, we are building strength, resilience, and confidence. We've all experienced those moments when we feel like we're on the verge of something great, when we know that if we just take that first step, everything will fall into place. But instead of acting on that feeling, we let our lazy thoughts take over. We tell ourselves that we're not ready, that we don't have the time, or that the timing isn't right. We procrastinate, hoping that somehow, somewhere, the perfect opportunity will appear without us having to do anything. But the truth is, the perfect opportunity doesn't exist. The right time to act is now. The moment you feel that spark of inspiration or drive is the moment you need to move, to take that first step, no matter how small. It's in the act of moving forward that clarity comes. Lazy thoughts often disguise themselves as rationality. We tell ourselves that we're being practical, that it's smart to wait until we have more information, more experience, or more resources. But in reality, these are just excuses. Excuses to remain stagnant, to stay in the safety of what we know. The longer we wait for the perfect circumstances to act, the further we get from our goals. We begin to lose sight of what truly matters, and we become complacent with where we are, even if we know deep down that we're capable of so much more. Another insidious aspect of lazy thoughts is that they often lead to self-doubt. When we allow these thoughts to take root, they begin to undermine our confidence. They whisper that we aren't good enough, that we don't have what it takes, or that others are better suited for the challenges ahead. These thoughts make us question our abilities, our worth, and our potential. But if we listen to these voices long enough, we start to believe them. We begin to see ourselves through the lens of our doubts rather than through the lens of our strengths. We become paralyzed by the fear of failure, afraid to take risks because we're convinced we'll fall short. The only way to overcome this cycle of doubt is by taking action, no matter how imperfect that action might be. The key is not to wait until you feel ready, because you'll never feel completely ready. The key is to act despite the fear, despite the doubt, and despite the lazy thoughts that try to hold you back. Action creates momentum. The more you act, the more you build confidence in yourself. Every small victory, every step forward, no matter how insignificant it seems, proves to you that you are capable, that you are worthy, and that you have the power to achieve whatever you set your mind to. One of the most dangerous things about lazy thoughts is that they can become a habit. The more we give in to them, the more natural they become. They start to feel like the default setting of our minds. And soon enough, we stop questioning them. We accept them as truth and stop challenging them. But just because a thought is persistent doesn't mean it's accurate. We have the power to change the way we think, to challenge the lazy thoughts that limit us, and to replace them with thoughts that empower us. It's not always easy, but it's always possible. The truth is, we are capable of far more than we give ourselves credit for. We have unlimited potential, but we are the ones who have to unlock it. No one else can do it for us. The only way to break free from lazy thoughts is to take ownership of our lives, to stop waiting for the perfect moment, and to start acting in spite of our fears. Action may not always lead to immediate success, but it will always lead to progress. Every time we take a step forward, we move closer to becoming the person we are meant to be. We must remember that lazy thoughts are not truth. They are simply the obstacles our minds place in our way to keep us from achieving greatness. The only way to overcome them is to act, to push forward even when it feels hard, and to trust that with each step we are becoming stronger, wiser, and more capable. We are not defined by our lazy thoughts, but by the choices we make in spite of them. We are not defined by our doubts. Our doubts are a natural part of being human, but they do not hold the power to dictate who we are or what we are capable of achieving. The truth is, we have the ability to choose how we respond to those doubts. And it is in our ability to rise above them that we find our true strength. Every day, we are faced with moments where we can either let doubt hold us back or use it as fuel to push ourselves further. Doubts are often the first barriers that appear when we set out on a new journey. They come in many forms: questions about our abilities, fears about the unknown, and concerns about failure. They whisper in our minds, telling us that we're not ready, that we lack the skills or knowledge to succeed, or that the path we've chosen is too difficult. These doubts can feel overwhelming, almost paralyzing at times, and they often try to convince us that we're not worthy of success or that our dreams are too big. But the reality is that doubts are not a reflection of our potential. They are simply the natural response to stepping outside of our comfort zones. When we face doubts, it's easy to believe that they define us. They make us question our worth and wonder if we are truly capable of achieving our goals. It's easy to get lost in a spiral of negative thoughts and start doubting everything about ourselves. But the truth is that doubts are not inherently negative. They are simply thoughts. And like all thoughts, they can be changed. We are not bound by the limits that our doubts try to impose on us unless we allow them to control our action. It is not the presence of doubt that defines us. It is how we choose to react to that doubt. One of the most powerful things we can do when faced with doubt is to acknowledge it without allowing it to define our course of action. Instead of letting doubt paralyze us or convince us to give up, we can use it as an opportunity for growth. Every time we doubt ourselves, we are given a chance to challenge those thoughts, to prove to ourselves that we are capable of more than we think. Doubt becomes a teacher, pushing us to reflect on what we are truly capable of, and it offers us the chance to take bold, courageous action despite the fear and uncertainty we feel. By acknowledging doubt, we can disarm it. When we accept that doubts are a part of the process, we begin to see them for what they are: temporary and surmountable. We don't need to eliminate doubt entirely. Instead, we need to stop allowing it to control our decisions. The more we practice moving forward despite our doubts, the less power they hold over us. The key is not in waiting for doubt to disappear, but in learning to move forward in its presence. This shift in mindset allows us to break free from the paralyzing grip that doubt can have on our lives. Doubt often arises from a place of fear. Fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, or fear of not measuring up to others' expectations. But fear itself is not something to be avoided. Fear is a natural response to the unknown, and it's an indication that we are stretching ourselves beyond our comfort zone. When we feel fear, we are often on the verge of growth, of stepping into new territory and learning something new about ourselves. Instead of letting fear and doubt stop us, we can choose to use them as indicators that we are on the right path. Every time we push through doubt, we strengthen our ability to take on the next challenge. It's a cycle of growth. We doubt, we push through, we grow, and then we become more confident the next time we face doubt. It's important to recognize that overcoming doubt is not about eliminating it completely. It's about learning to act despite it. And in doing so, we gain the strength to take on even greater challenges. There is a saying that goes, the only thing standing between you and your goal is the story you keep telling yourself. And that story often includes the doubts that we believe are holding us back. But what if we changed the narrative? What if instead of letting our doubts tell the story of our limitations, we let our actions tell the story of our resilience and courage? Every time we take a step forward, we rewrite the story of who we are and what we are capable of achieving. When we choose to rise above our doubts, we are not ignoring them. We are choosing to listen to a different voice, a voice that tells us that we are capable, worthy, and deserving of success. It's a voice that encourages us to act in the face of fear, to take risks, and to trust that we have the strength to handle whatever comes our way. This voice does not come from a place of arrogance, but from a place of self-belief. It's the voice that reminds us that we are more than the doubts that linger in our minds. We are all capable of greatness, but greatness doesn't come from a place of certainty and ease. It comes from the ability to act despite the doubts, to push forward even when we feel uncertain, and to trust that we have what it takes to navigate the challenges ahead. The doubts we face are simply part of the journey, and they do not define who we are or what we can achieve. What defines us is our ability to rise above those doubts, to take action in spite of them, and to trust in ourselves as we pursue our goals. Doubt may come, but it doesn't have to control us. We have the power to choose how we respond to it. We have the ability to rise above it and take action, knowing that the only true limits we face are the ones we place on ourselves. It is not our doubts that define us. It is our actions, our courage, and our commitment to moving forward despite them. Growth happens through persistence. This idea, although simple, is one of the most profound truths about the journey of self-improvement and achievement. We often think that growth is a grand, instantaneous leap that happens once we've figured everything out, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Real growth is subtle and gradual, and it happens over time through consistent effort, patience, and persistence, even in the face of setbacks. It's the small actions we take day in and day out that, when compounded, lead to significant transformation. When we embark on any kind of journey, whether it's a personal goal, a professional aspiration, or a pursuit of a dream, we often have this vision of what success should look like. We imagine the destination, the finish line, the moment we will finally arrive and be recognized for our efforts. But in reality, the journey is rarely linear. There are obstacles, frustrations, and moments when it feels like we are not making progress at all. This is where persistence comes into play. It's easy to keep going when everything is smooth and the path ahead is clear, but true growth comes from continuing to move forward when the road is difficult and when progress feels slow. Think about a tree. When it first starts growing, it's barely visible, just a small sprout emerging from the ground. It faces numerous challenges, storms, droughts, the pressure of its surroundings. Yet, it persists. Day after day, it continues to grow, even if the change is imperceptible to the naked eye. Over time, that small sprout becomes a towering tree. Its growth is the result of countless moments of persistence, moments when it continued to push through despite the challenges, and to be able to say that this is how growth works in our own lives. Often the progress we make isn't immediately obvious. We may not see dramatic changes overnight, but if we persist, we are slowly, consistently growing into the person we are meant to be. The path to growth is never without struggle. There are always going to be moments when we question if we're on the right path, when we wonder if we're making any progress at all. During these moments, persistence is what keeps us going. It's the understanding that even when we can't see the fruits of our labor immediately, we are still laying the foundation for future success. Every effort, no matter how small, counts. Persistence teaches us to embrace the process, to trust that each step we take, no matter how seemingly insignificant, is bringing us closer to where we want to be. In the face of challenges, it's easy to feel defeated. We often want instant results, and when we don't see immediate rewards, it's easy to get discouraged. We live in a society that values quick fixes and fast results, but growth doesn't happen overnight. It requires time and a willingness to put in the work day after day, even when it feels like we're not making any headway. Persistence means showing up even when the task feels impossible, continuing to try even when the world seems to be working against you. It's in these moments of persistence that we begin to build the mental and emotional resilience necessary for growth. There is inherent power in consistency. While talent and ability are important, it is persistence that truly successful individuals apart from those who fall short of their potential. There are countless examples of people who have achieved great things, not because they were the most naturally gifted, but because they were relentless in their pursuit. They embraced the discomfort of persistence, and over time saw their efforts pay off. Success didn't come because of one brilliant idea or one perfect moment, but because of countless small actions taken over and over again, even in the face of difficulty. Persistence also teaches us an important lesson. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is often a part of the journey. In fact, failure can be one of the greatest teachers we'll encounter along the way. Each time we fail and get back up, we grow stronger, wiser, and more equipped to face the challenges ahead. If we give up after every setback, we miss the opportunity to learn from our mistakes and improve. Persistence isn't about avoiding failure. It's about continuing to move forward despite it. The most successful people aren't the ones who avoid failure, but the ones who have learned to persist through it. Another powerful aspect of persistence is that it helps build self-confidence. When we commit to something and consistently show up, even when we're not seeing immediate results, we begin to trust ourselves more. We start to believe that we are capable of overcoming whatever obstacles come our way. The more we persist, the more we develop a mindset that success is not about perfection, but about the willingness to keep going, even when things get tough. We start to realize that growth is not a destination, but a process. The journey itself is just as valuable as the outcome. We often look at the success stories of others and think that they somehow had an easier path, that they reached their goals with less effort or fewer obstacles. But the reality is, behind every success story is a story of persistence. Behind every great achievement is someone who didn't give up when it got hard, who kept pushing forward even when they felt like quitting. Success is not a matter of waiting for the right moment. It's a matter of showing up, doing the work, and continuing to show up again and again, even when it feels like the odds are against you. Persistence is the engine that drives growth. It is the daily effort, the unrelenting pursuit, and the belief that even when the journey feels difficult, it is still worth it. It is about trusting that every step, every challenge, and every setback is part of the process, helping you to become stronger and more capable. Growth happens through persistence, and it is in our ability to keep going that we discover just how much we are capable of achieving. Growth is not always linear. In fact, it rarely is. We often imagine that once we start moving toward a goal, the path will be smooth, clear, and consistent. We expect that if we work hard and stay focused, progress will follow a steady upward trajectory. However, real growth is much more complex than that. It's full of twists, turns, and unexpected detours. There are moments when it feels like we're taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, or even several steps sideways. But that does not mean we're not growing. In fact, it's often through these setbacks and challenges that we experience the most profound growth. When we encounter obstacles on our journey, it's easy to feel discouraged. We might question whether we're on the right path, or whether we're doing something wrong. We might begin to doubt our abilities, wondering if we're cut out for the challenges we face. This is a natural reaction, but it's important to remember that obstacles are not the end of the road. They are often just because growth doesn't look the way we expect doesn't mean it's not happening. In fact, it's in these moments of discomfort and difficulty that growth can be the most profound. One of the most significant sources of frustration during our journey is the misconception that growth should happen quickly or in a perfectly straight line. We live in a world where instant gratification is the norm, where we're used to seeing quick results and immediate feedback. Social media, for example, often presents a curated version of success, where people appear to achieve their goals effortlessly and in record time. This creates unrealistic expectations for ourselves, leading to disappointment when we don't see the same results as quickly. But real growth doesn't operate on a timetable. It doesn't always happen in the order or the speed that we think it should. It's not about reaching a destination quickly, but about continuing the journey and trusting that every experience, every setback, and every success is contributing to our development. Growth often involves periods of uncertainty. There are times when we feel lost or unsure of our next steps. We may feel like we're drifting or that we're not making progress as quickly as we'd hoped. These moments of uncertainty can be uncomfortable, but they're not signs of failure. In fact, they are an essential part of the process. It's in the moments of uncertainty that we have the opportunity to pause, reflect, and reassess. We may learn something about ourselves, about our goals, or about the path we're on that we would have never discovered had we simply followed a linear, predictable course. The moments when we feel most uncertain are often the moments when we are growing the most, because they push us to dig deeper, think critically, and tap into our inner strength in ways we might not have had to do otherwise. Growth also involves learning to embrace setbacks as part of the process. We tend to see setbacks as failures, as signs that we've done something wrong or that we are not capable of achieving our goals. But setbacks are often not failures at all. They are just another opportunity to learn, adapt, and grow stronger. When we encounter a setback, we have a choice. We can view it as a sign to quit, or we can choose to learn from it. The most successful people are not those who have avoided setbacks, but those who have learned how to bounce back from them and use those experiences to refine their approach and get closer to their goals. It's also essential to recognize that growth doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes growth can be internal, invisible to the outside world. We might not see immediate results, and others might not recognize the changes we're experiencing, but that doesn't mean growth isn't happening. Just because we don't see outward signs of progress doesn't mean we aren't evolving. Often the most significant growth happens on the inside, through the shifts in mindset, the development of new skills, and the resilience we build in the face of challenges. These internal shifts are what eventually lead to external results, but they often take time and patience. Another key aspect of growth is learning to be patient with the process. We often want things to happen quickly, and when they don't, we get frustrated. We may feel like we're not doing enough or that we're falling behind. But true growth requires patience. It requires us to trust the process and trust that the work we're putting in will eventually pay off. Growth doesn't happen on our timeline. It happens on its own timeline. We can't rush the process, and we shouldn't try to. Instead, we need to focus on the daily actions we can take, knowing that over time, those actions will lead to progress, even if it doesn't feel like it right away. One of the most challenging aspects of growth is learning to let go of perfectionism. Perfectionism often causes us to expect flawless results, and when things don't go according to plan, it can feel like failure. But perfectionism is an illusion. There is no perfect path, no perfect outcome, and no perfect person. Growth is messy and imperfect. It's full of mistakes, missteps, and detours. But that's what makes it so powerful. The beauty of growth lies in its ability to transform transform us, even when things don't go according to plan. We don't have to have everything figured out, and we don't have to do everything perfectly. What matters is that we continue to show up, keep moving forward, and trust that we are growing, even when it doesn't look the way we thought it would. Growth is a deeply personal journey, and it's important to remember that it looks different for everyone. What works for one person may not work for another, and the path to growth is never the same for two people. It's easy to compare ourselves to others, but doing so only leads to frustration and self-doubt. We need to focus on our own journey, understanding that our growth is unique. It may not always look like what we imagined, but as long as we continue moving forward, even in the face of uncertainty, we are growing, and that in itself is a victory. We must choose to silence lazy thoughts and take charge of our own journey. It's easy to let the noise of self-doubt, procrastination, and fear hold us back from moving forward. These lazy thoughts slip in quietly, convincing us that what we're doing isn't important or that we can wait until tomorrow to act. They tell us that we're not ready, that the timing isn't right, or that we don't have enough resources to get started. They paint a picture of comfort and safety, persuading us to stay where we are instead of pushing ourselves towards something greater. But if we listen to those thoughts, we risk missing out on the opportunities that are waiting for us just beyond our hesitation. The danger of lazy thoughts lies in their ability to paralyze us. They create a false sense of security, convincing us that inaction is okay and that we don't need to take immediate steps toward our goals. The longer we give in to these thoughts, the easier it becomes to stay stuck. We begin to justify our lack of action, telling ourselves that the moment isn't right or that we need more time to prepare. But the truth is, the perfect moment will never come. The conditions will never be exactly what we want them to be. Waiting for everything to fall into place before we act is an illusion, one that only keeps us trapped in a cycle of inaction. Silencing lazy thoughts is not an easy task. They are persistent and seductive, often masking themselves as rational concerns. They tell us that we should wait until we feel more confident, more qualified, or more prepared. They trick us into believing that starting now would be a waste of time, or that we're just not cut out for the challenge ahead. But if we listen to these voices, we deny ourselves the opportunity to grow. Every moment spent in hesitation is a moment we could have used to make progress. Every day we put off taking action is another day that slips away, leaving us further from the goals we dream of. The key to silencing lazy thoughts is to recognize them for what they are: fear dressed up as logic. These thoughts are rooted in our own insecurities, doubts, and resistance to change. They are not a reflection of our true potential, but a defense mechanism that our minds use to keep us in a state of comfort. When we challenge these thoughts and choose to act anyway, we take the power away from them. We show ourselves that we are capable of moving forward despite the uncertainty, despite the fear. The more we take action in the face of lazy thoughts, the weaker they become and the more confident we become in our ability to take charge of our own journey. It's important to understand that silencing lazy thoughts does not mean ignoring our fears or pretending that they don't exist. It means acknowledging them and choosing not to let them dictate our actions. Fear is natural. It's a part of being human. But fear should not control us. When we choose to move forward despite our fears, we build resilience. Each time we take a step toward our goals, even when we feel uncertain or unprepared, we reinforce the belief that we can handle whatever comes our way. We begin to trust in our own ability to navigate the challenges and setbacks that will inevitably arise on our journey. Taking charge of our journey requires us to shift our mindset from one of passive waiting to one of active engagement. It's about understanding that our lives are not going to change on their own. If we want something to be different, we have to take responsibility for making it happen. We cannot rely on external circumstances to change or on the perfect moment to arrive. We must create our own opportunities and take ownership of our growth. This means choosing to act even when it feels uncomfortable, uncomfortable or when we're unsure of the outcome. It means embracing uncertainty and trusting that even if we don't know exactly where we're going, every step we take is a step toward progress. The power to change our lives lies in our ability to take action. We can plan, dream, and wish for things to be different, but nothing will change unless we make it happen. Lazy thoughts may tell us that we're not ready, but the truth is that we will never feel fully ready. The act of starting, of taking that first step, is often the hardest part, but once we begin, we gain momentum. Every action we take, no matter how small, propels us forward and brings us closer to our goals. It's not about waiting for the perfect conditions to arrive. It's about creating the conditions we need by starting where we are and doing what we can. Taking charge of our journey also means letting go of the fear of failure. Lazy thoughts often convince us that failure is something to be avoided at all costs, that it's a sign that we are not good enough or that we don't have what it takes. But failure is not the end. It is simply a part of the process. Every failure is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to improve. When we release our fear of failure and embrace it as a stepping stone toward success, we free ourselves from the grip of lazy thoughts and move toward the life we want to create. By choosing to silence lazy thoughts and take charge of our own journey, we reclaim our power. We stop waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect circumstances. Instead, we focus on what we can do right now. We take action even when it's uncomfortable, even when we're unsure, and even when the road ahead is unclear. It's through this process of taking charge and moving forward, step by step, that we create the life we desire. The journey is not always easy, but it is always worth it. By silencing the lazy thoughts and choosing to act, we unlock our potential and take full ownership of our future.